Welcome back to another Mandalorian Season 3 video. So this last episode was one of the best of the season, if not the best. We got a lot in this episode, such as Moff Gideon's new army, some behind-the-scenes look of Moff Gideon's plan, and Mandalorian survivors. Today I'm going to be talking about my final battle predictions, who I think is going to appear, and what might the Season 3 finale lead to regarding the Ahsoka show and even Mandalorian Season 4. There are a few things I wanted to go over in Chapter 23 that really caught my eye, and I think are important for the next episode. Chapter 23 started off inside of Moff Gideon's base on Mandalore, and he's walking through what I think are kind of like the cells of these clone robots. I'm honestly not sure what these things are. In the Season 2 finale, he created the robotic troops, which he said were perfected because they aren't piloted by humans anymore. Now we see these troopers, and when they fight and move and retreat, they have very human-like motions, which leads me to think that they're most likely clones. But Moff Gideon had them just inside of cells, kind of treating them like droids, so I'm not sure. Next, Moff Gideon passes what I think are Snoke clone tanks. These are identical to the tank in Season 2 that I made a video on, so this is just a behind-the-scenes look at Moff Gideon's clone tanks, which is connected to the Ahsoka show, and I'll talk about that in a separate video more. Moff Gideon enters a hologram conversation to a group called the Shadow Council. This is, of course, the remaining Imperial warlords who are trying to infiltrate the New Republic. They talk about the great return of Grand Admiral Thrawn, and this will, of course, lead to his appearance in the Ahsoka show. This leads to my predictions. So they're talking about the return of Grand Admiral Thrawn, which is his return from exile with Ezra, and he's going to have this grand plan. I think Thrawn is going to show up in the season finale, either at the beginning to make the Mandalorians fight harder, or he'll show up at the very end, and that will lead to the Ahsoka show. What we know of the Ahsoka show is that Ahsoka has to gather the rebel crew again, and I think Thrawn's return in Mando Season 3 will alert the Ghost crew, and they will think that Ezra is still alive. I think Thrawn's return is going to set off a chain reaction in Star Wars. Ahsoka will most likely try to hunt them down in her show, and he will probably be the main antagonist for Mando Season 4, and also the Ahsoka show maybe. But most likely the Sith Lords are going to be the main antagonists for the Ahsoka show. But most likely Thrawn will appear in the season finale. For taking over Mandalore, I'm skeptical they will be able to fit the overtake of Mandalore in one single episode, but I think if they can make this entire season filler, they're probably restricting it out to this episode. I'm not sure how they'll be able to take over the entire base. Maybe they'll explode it, I'm not sure. I also did want to talk about the ending scene where Paz Vizsla is killed by these clones. Most likely, all of these soldiers are clones, I'm still not sure though. Anyway, these look very similar to the guards in The Last Jedi that Rey and Kylo Ren had to fight off, so it's very likely that Moff Gideon's large army is carried over into the First Order, with Snoke being cloned as well. That's just what I think will happen. The chances of Bo-Katan taking over Mandalore in one episode is not likely, but why else would the rest of the season be filler? There's also a very large chance this will just be carried on over to Mandalorian Season 4.